Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel and thank you so much for tuning in. Today I want to talk about two of my favorite finesse jigs. These are jigs that I'm going to throw when times are tough, when I just want to get bit. One's going to be for an open water situation and it's extremely effective on not only crappies but largemouth, smallmouth bass, and I've even caught some big walleyes on it. The other one is for when I'm fishing boat docks and I know that the lake has both largemouth and smallmouth on it, and I'm going to concentrate on more of a bluegill pattern for this. So I'm going to show you both those baits, how to build them, what you do with them, and all that starts right now. Hair jigs have been effective for years and with good reason. They work. Now I'm going to show you how to set up this little jig, and this is a VMC marabou jig. It's 1/16 ounce. It's black. Cool thing about this little jig is that it's got a high carbon steel hook on it and it's got a rotated eye. It's almost like a small flipping jig. Now even though it's a small lure, it catches really big fish. I've caught big crappies on it, even big walleyes, largemouth and smallmouth. But there's one thing I do to it that's very important for you to know when I set it up before I start fishing it. I'm going to show you what that is. After I take the jig out of the package, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add some weight to it. And what that's going to do, it's going to do two things. It's going to help flare out the skirt, and it's going to give me some added casting weight so I can cast this little jig farther. So pick a plastic worm of your choice, and all I'm going to do is just cut off a small little section of that worm, and then I'm going to move the hair back on the jig. And then I am going to take the smaller side of it and slide it right up on the shank, just like so. Push it up as far as it'll go. Now, with the slimmer part or the pointed part of the plastic worm being up against the head of the jig, it gets thicker as it goes farther back the hook, okay? So, with that being said, now it really flares out the hair on this jig, so when you're reeling it through the water, it has a more fuller profile to it. Okay, now that the jig is set up, I'm going to be throwing this on a rod that's at least 7 foot long. I usually like about a 7.3 on it, and I'm going to be using a low gear ratio reel. The key behind being successful with the hair jig is to reel it slow. So I'm going to have 10-pound braid, I'm going to have an 8-pound fluorocarbon leader, and after I make the cast, I'm going to be reeling it slow enough to keep a bow in the line. Now think about that. That's a 1/16 ounce jig. The reason I'm using a low gear ratio is so I don't get in a hurry. I need to keep that bow in the line. You don't want to hop it, you don't want to jig it, you want to cast it out and simply reel it slow enough to keep a bow in your line. Now, in the description of this video, I've included the link to a show we did a couple years ago that explains everything, how to throw it, how to set it up, and you'll see us catching some big smallmouth. But as I said, it works for other things besides smallmouth. It can also catch you some big largemouth. Check this out.
Oh my goodness. That is a big fish. That is a big fish. We might just get this. We might just get this. Are we going to get this? We did it! Look at that! Look at that! On that little tiny black hair jig. Oh my goodness. That's why you fish hair jigs, because as small as they are, guess what? Elephants eat peanuts. That's an elephant. What a beautiful fish that is. Wow.
As you saw, that hair jig is a deadly effective little lure, and it's worked for me for years. Now, I'll throw that in open water situations, more like around weed lines or when I'm covering a big sand flat. Areas like that, that hair jig works. Now, yes, you can throw it around heavy cover, but since it doesn't have a weed guard, obviously, it's probably going to hang up a little bit more. Now, when it comes to fishing around cover, for boat docks example, I'm using a different type of jig, and this is a little classic ball jig from Lure Parts Online, and I throw that in a 1/8 ounce. And I throw this a lot in the summertime when I'm fishing lakes like northern Illinois, Wisconsin, Minnesota, where fish can get on a really good bluegill pattern. So I'm going to show you how to set this up, make it look like a little bluegill, and add another deadly little lure to your arsenal. Setting this little jig up is easy, so I'm going to use it in a 1/8 ounce, and I'm going to put all the part numbers here so you can see them too. Usually just a green pumpkin head. I'm going to make this look like a bluegill as much as I can. I'm going to use a skirt called Roadkill, and I'm not going to use a little finesse skirt. Here's one of the tricks that I do with this. I'm going to use a full-size bass skirt on here that I would use on a bass jig, and I'm just going to thread it on the hook just like you would do any other skirt. But here's what I'm going to do. After that's on there, I am now going to take scissors and I'm going to cut this extremely short. I'm going to cut it right to the bend in the hook, right there. That's what I want. I want that little bait or that little skirt to flare out. It will actually slow the fall even more on this little 1/8 ounce. Now this road color skirt is perfect to match a bluegill, and it's worked for me in a lot of clear water situations. Now we're going to add something else to it. We are going to take one of the new Bass Academy Big D darters, and this is in a 3.25 size, and I'm going to thread the whole thing up on the shank of the hook, and I'm going to do it with the paddle so it's flat. I'll show you as soon as we rig this up, just like this. Okay, push that up on there. That's it. And that's exactly what I want. That's how I want that bait. When this falls, this skirt is going to puff out a lot, and it's going to slow the fall down of this jig. This is a neutrally buoyant plastic right here, so that helps slow the fall down as well. And that little paddle tail, when fish are very finicky, is a great little attractor. Now I'm going to show you another trick on here. I can take a scissors if I want to give a little bit action to this tail. I'm going to take that tail and cut a groove in it at an angle about like that. That's all I have. That right there. Okay, now when I'm reeling this in, this little tail is actually moving more back here. So you've got a couple different ways to do it. This, without question, when it comes to flipping boat docks and really clear water, this is one deadly lure. And there you have it, my two favorite finesse jigs. Now, both of those lures can easily be thrown on spinning gear. However, when it comes to fishing around boat docks, I like to be a lot more accurate. And to do that, I'm throwing that little 1/8 ounce jig on bait casting gear, or BFS, so bait finesse system. So the reel I'm using for that is the Cast King Kestrel. Now that reel will throw lures down to 1/16 ounce, and if you're interested in anything from Cast King, here's his discount code over here. Check this out, JC52AFF. That will give you 20% off anything and everything at Cast King if you decide that's something that you want to do. Now, when it comes to building your own baits, obviously there's no better place than Lure Parts Online. So check this code out. Use this, YouTube10, and that'll give you 10% off anything when it comes to building your own lure. So I hope that helps. Those are two great baits that will, without question, get you bit. And by the way, that little marabou jig is absolutely one of the best lures you can have when you take your kids fishing. As long as they just reel it slow, chances are there's going to be bluegills, crappies, bass, whatever's in that farm pond or wherever you're fishing, it's got a great chance of being bit and putting a big old smile on your children's face. So hey, thanks for watching. I hope you like this video. I hope you subscribe and tell your friends about it. Until next time, God bless you. I'm Jim Crowley. We'll see you soon.